Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Brenda. I'm from Workwell NYC, and I'm just letting you know the webinar will start shortly, which is going to wait a few more minutes to allow more people to join. Thank you. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining. Somebody had stated, what a great topic, and I have to share. It's a really interesting webinar. So again, welcome to Food and Mood. My name is Brenda Dash, and I'm the Senior Wellness Educator for Workwell NYC. Next slide, please. So before we get into this amazing topic of food and mood, I just want to share a little bit of information about who we are. And when I say who we are, I'm talking about Workwell NYC. So Workwell NYC is the city's worksite wellness program, and we're here to help you live well and work well. Our goal is to create worksites that make it easier for our employees to live healthy, active lifestyles. And when we talk about health, health is not just the abstinence of disease. Health is physical, mental, financial, emotional, and we know that health exists on a spectrum. So we're here for you with health and well-being resources and programs to help you move more, eat well, be well, and take action to prevent disease no matter where you are in your health journey. We are also committed to addressing matters of inequity and providing platforms to educate and develop structural solutions to health and wellness, both in and out of work. So in essence, that's a summary of work well. And I want to add, and we do a lot more. So next slide. Today, the facilitator, and many of you would know her from previous webinars, is Tamar, and she's going to give you a detailed understanding of how food and mood is connected. So without further ado, Tamar, thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Thank you for that awesome introduction. So welcome, everybody. We really have a lot to discuss today. It is a hot topic and is just so interesting in that it's still relatively new and we are learning so much more about it every day. So a quick overview of what to expect for today. We're going to talk about how food may improve mood, how it may impact our mood, what role does the gut play in our mood. We'll discuss the gut-brain axis, the concept of nutritional psychiatry, which is what this is all founded on, food and depression, and then we'll get into some deeper details with some particular nutrients like vitamin D, zinc, and we'll discuss a few foods to improve mental health, just some tips to take with you of some quick ways to improve your overall diet and maybe add a few of these foods. And then I will pass the baton on to Stella for the EAP services for city employees.
And I just wanted to interject one additional point. We want to hear from you. So as Tamar, as well as Stella, when they're speaking, if you have anything to share, please use the chat feature, and that way we can hear you and everybody else can also see and hear what you have to share. But if you have a specific question, please use the Q&A function, and that way we will be able to identify those questions. More than likely, we're not going to get to all of the questions, but we're going to hope to answer as many questions as possible. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. So with that, we will start by taking a look around the world. So the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists really got the ball rolling with this trend, encouraging clinicians to talk about diet, exercise, and smoking before starting any patients on medications or psychotherapy. So the idea here is a little bit more of like a holistic approach, taking a look at the person's whole body, lifestyle, and habits, and how that relates to a potential mood disorder. So this was instituted in about 2015. And they call this model the biopsychosocial lifestyle model. And in it, it includes nutrition, physical activity, sleep, smoking cessation, reduction of substance abuse and alcohol consumption, all of these things that have been repeatedly shown to affect the development and clinical management of depression and bipolar disorders. So when you take a look at this list, right, nutrition and mental health, in at least the last 10 years, there has been a significant increase in the amount of published literature that shows that high quality diets, and we'll talk about what that means in a few slides, but, if you had a guess, it's not, McDonald's, that leads to an increased risk for depression. And this is across the board for children, for adolescents, and adults. And the big research article that's constantly referenced is the SMILES trial. It stands for Supporting the Modification of Lifestyle in Lowered Emotional States. So that was in 2017. And they showed that 32% of patients with moderate to severe depression were able to remit their disease with nutritional intervention alone. So they weren't told to stop taking their medications, but by the end of the trial, just by improving their dietary habits, a lot of them were able to move beyond the depression diagnosis. The results showed that dietary interventions reduced depression and anxiety symptoms, particularly in women. Physical activity, this one always gets an eye roll. Nobody wants to do it, but it really is the cure to a lot of our ailments. This picked up in 2018, the European Psychiatric Association. They issued their new guideline that promotes physical activity as a fundamental management tool for depressive disorders, even used in schizophrenia. So the idea is here that physical activity can be as effective as antidepressants and psychotherapy, improving depression symptoms, improving quality of life. And it doesn't mean that it can't work in conjunction with medication. You can still take medication and exercise, right? There's no harm in that. But it just goes to show you how important these lifestyle factors are in really alleviating a lot of the symptoms. Sleep and mental illness, and this is another one that's just so important to reiterate, that the research here is bidirectional in that people who don't sleep well are at greater risk for mental disorders like depression and anxiety, and that people who have depression and anxiety are also at greater risk for not sleeping well. So it's, both sides of the coin here. People who have the prevalence of sleep disorders in patients with some sort of psychiatric illness is up to 40%. That's a lot, right? And, beyond the depression, not sleeping well only, triggers that cascade of effects. So by really, cornering in on what will help us improve a good night's sleep, and we know that exercise is one of those things that can do that, it can really help, again, alleviate a lot of the symptoms. So super interesting, and it's nice to see that it's being, regarded so highly all across the world. In the US, we're a little bit, I'd say, more skeptical of this. We approach these types of, depression and anxiety with medication first, although I'd say more clinicians are jumping on board, considering nutrition and physical activity as an important part of mental health. So there are no guidelines across the board for this. We have not adopted a specific diet recommendation for mental health. A lot of experts can still consider that more research is needed, but it tends to be trending in the right direction. So when we think about how our diet particularly can affect our mental health, we have to start, by digging deeper. And a lot of it starts with our gut. In our gut, we have trillions and trillions of bacteria, some mostly good, some bad. And we want to make sure that that balance stays, right? We want more good bacteria, less bad bacteria. And one of the reasons that this is so important is because about 70% of our immune system starts in our gut. So a strong immune system helps keep the rest of our body in good health, both mentally and physically. There are certain diseases that can create nutritional deficiencies or medications that can have an effect on mental health. So by making sure that our gut microbiome, that's what we refer to it as, in tip-top shape, it can help prevent or manage these types of diseases. And we'll talk a little bit more later on about a few specific nutrients. But for the most part, when we think about our gut, Dr. Drew Ramsey, he's a practicing clinician and he's a professor over at Columbia. He takes into account a patient's history and diet, right? So he'll begin his new sessions by exploring their diet, taking their psychiatric history, and he asks them what they eat. What does a typical day look like for you? He learns about their favorite foods. And then he finds out if the foods that he deems as the most important for our gut, keeping those bacteria healthy and happy, are missing from their diet. And he talks about things like seafood, greens, those dark leafy green vegetables, nuts, and fermented food. Now, one of the reasons that this list of foods is something that, again, we'll see come up later on, is that they can help promote compounds like BDNF. This is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this is a protein that stimulates the growth of new neurons and protects existing ones. And this is really important to note. For a long time, we didn't think that the stimulation of and growth of new neurons was possible. When it came to brain health, we thought that, once they were gone, that was it. So now with this idea that food can heal and can create and can stimulate new neurons, it's a really important thing to hone in on to see if we can really help repair our brain health that way. So when we think about the gut, right, that idea, the microbiome, that's where the trillions of bacteria live in our gut. Those are the good gut bacteria. They help protect the lining of our intestines. They create a strong barrier against toxins and bad bacteria. When we are not in that good ratio, when we have more of the bad bacteria, that's when that strong barrier starts to break down and undigested food can pass through, and maybe some toxins or some bad bacteria can start traveling to other parts of the body. So we want to make sure that that strong barrier in our intestines is nice and tight. The good bacteria can help limit inflammation. When our body is combating inflammation, our immune system is constantly triggered, right? So if our immune system is constantly triggered, what happens when we actually get sick or we're actually wounded? Our healing time is much slower and it takes our immune system much, much, much longer to kick in. So if we're in a constant state of inflammation, things like processed foods, deep fried fast foods, commercially baked goods, these types of foods actually cause inflammation. So again, if our body's constantly fighting that, there isn't much energy left to expend on when we're actually sick and need healing. The gut bacteria is responsible for the absorption of nutrients from the foods that we eat. And it also is very, very important for the gut-brain axis. And we'll talk more about that on the next slide. But the gut-brain axis, this is the pathway between our gut and our brain. It's that active neural pathway. It travels both between our brain and our gut and our gut and our brain and allows for communication. The communication has neural, endocrine, immune, and humoral links. So the idea is that here we're sending these little messages. Think of like IMs, those little like instant messages from our brain to our gut and from our gut to our brain. These little messages and these neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, maybe you've heard of some of these, they are responsible in our sleep-wake cycles, in our feel-good, happy hormone synthesis, like oxytocin and endorphins. These are responsible for regulating sleep, appetite, mood, emotions, right? Do these things start to trigger the same list, right? So you see how this is a little bit related, all of these? So the healthy gut microbiome, which produces these types of neurotransmitters, in turn can help us ultimately feel better, okay? So dopamine is stored in the brain, but the body stores the majority of our serotonin in the gut. Serotonin, again, helps regulate mood, body temperature, and appetite. So these things are all very related. The idea of nutritional psychiatry. So the same concept that, that eating, a heart healthy diet can promote heart health. Eating a certain type of diet can also promote brain health, okay? So it looks at the diet, it looks at the connection between diet and mental health and wellness. And research shows that there is a possible link between the food we eat and our mood, right? So a lot of these large population studies, which we had referenced a few slides ago, found that people who eat nutrient-dense foods, fruits, vegetables, fish, nuts, seeds, beans, lentils, report less depression and greater levels of happiness and mental well-being. Now, and you can type this into the chat. Is that surprising? We know that people who tend to eat healthier diets also tend to have less burden of disease. And we see this a lot, that people who are struggling with other diseases like type 2 diabetes, COPD, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, there's also a burden of disease associated with these, which can also lead to, disease fatigue, burnout, depression, and anxiety surrounding the disease. So by either managing or preventing these types of chronic diseases, it also helps take off a big mental load. So when we look at the diet specifically, so there's, the traditional diet, and traditional in the sense that what you're eating in Japan is going to be different than what you're eating in Norway, right? Or what you're eating in the Mediterranean countries, but traditional to those countries, versus the modern Western diets, which, if you had a guess, that's what we eat here mostly, right? So in this country, we eat a lot of processed foods, we eat a lot of refined and added sugars, high sodium foods, and a lot of saturated fats. This comes down again to a lot of fast food, takeout, ultra-processed snack foods, commercially baked goods like the little Debbie's Drake's cakes, right? Versus other countries whose traditional diets include whole, unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods, tend to be those like single ingredient type foods, right? Fish, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, olives. The traditional Norwegian diet, fish, shellfish, they eat a lot of game like deer, they eat a lot of root vegetables, dairy products, whole wheat bread, poultry. And then traditional Japanese diets, a lot of fish, tofu, rice. But again, vegetables is something that they all eat in common. Fish is something that they all have in common. So it's not necessarily one diet alone. It has a lot to do with the unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods, the whole foods that they're eating. So it is very interesting. Now, the seafood being one link that, all of them have in common, provides those omega-3 fatty acids, it has unsaturated fats, and these are types of foods that help improve our metabolic health and help reduce inflammation. Now, again, by reducing inflammation, it also helps increase blood flow and oxygen, especially to places like our brain and our heart. The plant foods like the tofu, like the fruits, like the vegetables, beans is another one that they all had in common. The fiber, right, it's called a prebiotic, prebiotic, sorry, a prebiotic. This is the type of food that our gut bacteria likes to eat. Now, different than a probiotic, sorry to get confused there. Probiotic, think pro like yogurt, okay? Those are the live active bacteria, the live active cultures. By eating those, we're increasing our gut diversity. We're getting more bacteria to help the bacteria that we already have. But what does our gut bacteria like to eat? They like to eat fiber, okay? Now, if you had to take a guess in this country, do most people get enough fiber? Are most people eating enough fiber? Good. Not even close, right? I'm looking at the chat. It seems like you're all confident that the answer is no, right? So when we think about that, right, versus the benefits of a healthy diet and how it can improve depression risk, these foods that are high in fiber or fish that has the unsaturated fats and the omega-3 fatty acids helps with vascular health, lowers levels of our, bad cholesterol, lowers inflammatory levels, less oxidative stress, right? So we help neutralize those free radicals. We're eating foods rich with antioxidants. Improvements in neurotransmitters like serotonin and norepinephrine, again, all these neurotransmitters related to our mood, appetite, and that type of regulation, and improvements in our gut microbiome. So no real surprise, right, in seeing that. The intake of highly ultra processed foods, those foods high, the fried foods, processed meats, breakfast patties, deli meats, sausages, hot dogs, summer's coming up, refined grains, added sugars, sugar sweetened beverages. These types of foods are thought to influence depression and major depressive disorder. Now, major depressive disorder, like I had mentioned before, is also associated with chronic diseases. And let me just define that term. Chronic diseases are diseases that you don't kick after a week. You have a cold after a week or two, you're totally fine. Chronic diseases like heart disease, arthritis, diabetes, certain disabilities, it's not like you wake up on Tuesday, and it's gone. These are diseases that stay with you unless they are, managed and prevented well. So it kind of is this, what came first? Are you experiencing these depressive symptoms because of the types of foods you're eating? Or is having these depressive symptoms leading you to eat these types of foods? So the diet quality has been associated with the risk of depression. We're still assessing whether diet can cause depression and or worsen existing symptoms. I personally believe that, it can. And think about it. If you eat, fast food and takeout 7 days in a row, maybe it feels good while you're doing it, but you don't feel great at the end of the week, right? And if you were to do it for 2 weeks in a row, you feel even worse. So, it's an interesting self project. But, it's important to note also that eating right isn't the only factor involved in mental health, right? You could be eating right and exercise and still be struggling with depression and anxiety and more. So it's not, the end all be all, but it's just one aspect that could help alleviate symptoms, or in conjunction with medication and therapy could be beneficial. It's not going to hurt you by eating better. It's not going to hurt you by, getting in some physical activity. So the idea is that maybe it helps, right? We know it's definitely not going to make it worse, which is something that we're looking for. So, a little food for thought. Take it to yourself. You can put it in the chat. But do you think that depression causes your poor diet? Or do you think that your poor diet causes depression? So I'm curious to hear back from you guys. I'll address it in the chat afterwards, but I just want to move through a few here. I'll leave it up for a second so you guys can take a look at that and type it into the chat. I'm always happy to hear from you guys, and I'm curious what you think about it. And obviously you are too, from being here. Getting a lot of both, getting a lot of poor diet first. feedback loop. I love that, Shukasha. Interchangeable, interesting. I like that, Litia. Yeah, circular effect. I see that coming up a lot in the chat. Yes, Denise, I agree. I think it can definitely flow both ways. Okay, cool. So go ahead, you can keep typing in the chat. I'm just for sake, time's sake, I'm going to keep rolling here, but we'll definitely take a look at that after. So when we take a deeper dive into some specific nutrients, things that keep coming up in the research, we've got B vitamins, magnesium, which is like a super hot topic now, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and zinc. These have all been used to assess their potential role in the treatment of major depressive disorders. Now, the results are a little bit across the board. A lot of them are like anecdotal that, whether these individual nutrients reduce the risk of depression or anxiety, or again, if you're improving your overall diet, these are the types of nutrients you're going to be getting more of, right? So it might not be one nutrient alone, but again, from diet improvement, you will be getting more of these. When combined with antidepressant medication, zinc supplementation has been shown to be potentially helpful. But in general, you'll see the biggest benefit with zinc, especially in people who are already deficient to begin with. So it's not like, running to CVS now and taking zinc supplements is going to help. Only if you are already baseline deficient, correcting or overcorrecting for that deficiency could be potentially helpful. Vitamin D, known as a prohormone because it acts like a hormone and like a vitamin, but can help protect the brain from experiencing low dopamine and serotonin levels, right? Dopamine, we know, regulates mood, muscle movement, and plays a vital role in the brain's pleasure and reward system. So we definitely want to make sure our vitamin D is adequate. People with low baseline levels of vitamin D are more susceptible to becoming sick. We'll see more upper respiratory tract infections, poor bone health, anxiety, and depression. These are things that keep coming up. So where do we find vitamin D? You don't have to look too far. Well, maybe not today, but in general, you don't have to look too far. The sun, right? A nice free to us resource. Fatty fish, again, one of the reasons you'll keep seeing that come up. Salmon, trout, tuna, sardines, mackerel, herring, right? Those rich omega-3 fatty acid sources. The U.S. dairy and soy products are fortified with vitamin D. Egg yolk, don't throw away the yolk. And liver, beef and chicken liver are also good sources of vitamin D. If you can find mushrooms that have been exposed to the UV light, so they tend to grow in darkness, they can actually capture vitamin D much like we can. So a few other sources. Zinc, we touched upon. The levels of zinc in people who have been diagnosed with major depression disorder tend to be lower, which is why this also comes up as supplementation. Zinc deficiency can be a possible risk factor for depression, but in general, we need zinc. It's a mineral that supports our immune system and growth and repair of tissues. So it's essential for wound healing as well. We'll find zinc in meat, fish, dairy products, eggs, legumes like beans and lentils, nuts and seeds. Is this surprising? When you look at that list of foods that are healthy for us, of foods that we need to be getting more of, ding, 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 ding. These are all those foods, right? When you look across the globe of those, traditional diets based on where you are, this is a whole list of the things that they're eating. When you look here, we're not eating as many of these types of foods. So when it comes to snacks and meals, especially, one of the things that Dr. Ramsey focuses on is the idea of stabilizing our blood sugar levels, right? Now, when our blood sugar levels are up and down and up and down and up and down, our mood and our energy is up and down, right? You familiar with the term hangry? that, if this is during your lunch hour and you haven't had lunch yet, you might be very, very familiar with that term. But the idea is that once your blood sugar levels drop, you get irritated and annoyed and you could get anxious, right? So making sure that our blood sugar levels are steady helps keep our energy and our mood steady as well. One food in particular is that nuts, in that nuts have fiber, nuts have protein, and nuts have that unsaturated fat. That combination, right? So protein and fat don't affect our blood sugar, and the fiber has a little bit of carbohydrates, but mostly fiber, helps stabilize our blood sugar levels. So that idea of stabilizing our blood sugar levels has a lot to do with our, first of all, overall health and essentially our mood, mental health. Eggs, got a bad rap for a long time. You don't have to eat 12 of them, but eating 1 or 2 eggs every day, perfectly healthy for you. And when we look at the nutrients that are in eggs, the whole egg, don't throw away the yolk. We got protein, iron, zinc, selenium, polyunsaturated fats, iodine, folate, vitamin A, vitamin D, which we spoke about, and choline. And choline is used in the construction of our most important membranes, cell membranes, which can help preserve and improve memory. It's a precursor for acetylcholine, an important neurotransmitter that's used in memory, mood, muscle control. We need it for cell function. So a really important nutrient that we find in egg yolks. So for a long time, people were afraid to eat egg yolks, but it's actually a really, really great source of nutrients. Some other ones, when we take a look, the dark leafy greens, things like spinach, kale, no surprise, right? If anyone had a mom that made them sit down and eat their greens. We talked about nuts and that combination with fiber, protein, healthy fat. They've got some magnesium, which we mentioned can be helpful. Almonds and pumpkin seeds are also other great sources of magnesium. The seeds in general. Berries, especially berries, rich in fiber, rich in antioxidants, which can help with that vascular health, improving blood flow to the brain, which can help bring us more nutrients and oxygen to our brain, helping us think clearly, and also without raising our blood sugar too high. Berries have very low sugar and a lot of fiber. Kefir, if anyone's familiar with it, kefir, it's great for our gut. It's like a drinkable yogurt, and the benefit here is that it's fermented with both yeast and bacteria, so you get a double dose of probiotics. So in the short term, it helps with gut diversity, things like digestion and absorption of nutrients, and in the long run, has also been shown to help with cognitive protection, again, due to that gut-brain axis. Beans we talked about, good source of potassium. Some other things, avocado, mango, tomato, banana. And there's an interesting connection between potassium and lower levels of cortisol, that stress hormone. So again, with depression and anxiety, your cortisol might be through the roof. So getting a diet that's rich in potassium, ding, 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 beans, vegetables, fresh fruits, fresh herbs, fresh vegetables, might help with that as well. So this is what I mean. Like you're going to start seeing the same list of foods come up over and over again. Some other ones, this was based off of Dr. Ramsey's list, but he talked about seafood, which we had mentioned. Dark chocolate, always a fun one. Rich in some antioxidants that can help reduce inflammation. Don't overdo it, right? The darker, the better, if you can tolerate it. The dark leafy greens, the eggs we mentioned, avocado, rich in potassium. Also helpful with our blood sugar levels in that it doesn't affect it, but it helps us stay feeling fuller longer. And beans. So we talked about that. A few honorable mentions that aren't on here. Water. We are made up of a lot of water, and it's needed for every function in our body. Helps prevent dehydration, prevent fatigue, relieve constipation, all things that it just helps you feel better. And if you complain that you have to run to the bathroom, it's a good thing. It means everything's working. So, don't knock it. But we could all probably be a little bit better about drinking water. So with that, I will pass the baton and we will come back with hopefully a few time to answer a few questions. Brenda, you're muted.
Thank you ever so much, Tamar. I told you it was going to be a great presentation, but as we're talking about mental health and wellness, we thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to bring on Stella, who will talk about the New York City Employee Assistance Program, EAP, which provides many services to city employees as well as their families. So, Stella, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Thank you, Brenda, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. This is Stella here, and I am a counselor at the New York City Employee Assistance Program. So Tamara has given us a wonderful presentation on how food and mood can relate. And now I'm going to switch gear a little bit and talk about where we can go to get more information on this topic, the Employee Assistance Program, EAP. So a little brief introduction. So the Employee Assistance Program, I believe many of you have heard about us before, is a free and confidential program available to all New York City employees and your family members. We currently offer sessions via phone call, video call, or in-person appointments, and you can reach out to us by call or email, and these are our contact information. And also, you can look it up on our website. Our webpage is nyc.gov/EAP. So I wanted to give you more information on how we can help you here at EAP. Essentially, NYC EAP offer non-discriminatory counseling, information, and referrals to all city employees and your family members. So if you would like to have more information on food and mood and season and mood and how your lifestyle is going to contribute to mental health disorders, come to us and we can definitely give you more guidance. So what are some common topics people come to us for? Job-related stress, substance abuse concerns. And if you're trying to find a therapist and you don't know where to start, if you're experiencing financial hardship and you want some assistance, if you're facing domestic violence and you want someone to talk to, or simply if you're just facing problems with your family members and you want a listening ears, we are here to help. So you will be able to make an appointment with us via phone call or email as mentioned before, and we will get back to you quickly. So at EAP, we have many counselors available. All of us are master level mental health professionals, and we have very clinical backgrounds and years of post-matters experience. And also, a lot of our counselors are multilingual. So like I myself, I speak both Mandarin and Cantonese as well, in addition to English. So if you or your family member have concerns about the language barriers, don't hesitate to reach out to us and we can definitely figure out a plan to help you. In addition to individual services, we also provide services to couples and families. We also offer trainings, workshops, and presentations on various mental health topics as requested by the agency. And we also offer process group online or in person. So right now we have an ongoing grief and loss support group happening every Thursday online. If you would like to have more information, please feel free to reach out to us. We also offer on-site interventions. If something traumatic happened at work, reach out to us. We are here to help you. It can be in person, Zoom, WebEx, or Teams. We will reach out to you. So I wanted to let you know what you can expect when you reach out to us. As I said, we help with any mental health and social work related concerns. So when you call and email us, your call or email will be answered by our live reception. And if you can't reach us at that time, don't worry at all. You can leave us a voicemail and we will get back to you. So after you reach out to us, one of our counselors will be reaching out to you as well. So we will get back to you and we will make an appointment with you, whether it's video call, phone call, in-person appointments. It really up to you. And we will then discuss the best treatment plan for you. So whether it's short-term counseling, case management, information, or referrals. During your appointment with us, you will get a thorough evaluation looking at your physical, emotional, and social health. And like I mentioned before, you and the counselor will work together to develop the next steps. Sometimes we will provide you with referrals. And I want to let you know that these referrals, most of the time we will provide the referrals in network with your insurance. So you don't have to pay everything out of your pocket. And for time, I know this is something that many people are concerned about. So if I go to EAP, is it okay for me to ask for a leave and would it be covered? So I do want to mention that here. So for your first appointment, we cover your leave for up to an hour. But anything after that, so if you are attending the second or third appointment, or if you are going out for a therapy referral, those times we do not cover, okay? So we cover for the first appointment up to an hour. And we also provide continual follow-up afterwards. We strive very hard to create a safe and comfortable environment for all of you. So I want to let you know that all of your communication and documentation are confidential. The EAP will only contact others on your behalf when you sign a release form, right? We will not release your information without your consent. However, there are exceptions. So if you're in danger to yourself or to others, or if you abuse a child or an elder, in those case scenarios, we will need to break confidentiality and report. But in any normal circumstances, we will keep your information confidential. A little more information about our services. So the most common topics that we give workshops and presentations on are stress management, improving communication, vicarious trauma, mindfulness, and many more topics customized to your agency's needs. We also offer supervisory and managerial consultations. So if you are a supervisor or a manager and you're struggling with providing a supported environment for your staff, you can reach out to us and we can give you more guidance on these. So the last page is our contact information. Our number is above 212-306-7660 and our email address eap@olr.nyc.gov and our webpage nyc.gov/eap. So thank you very much everyone for your attention. Here's the end of my shameless advertisement.
Thank you, thank you. So important for everybody in the city to know. So thank you for sharing very important information. All right, so it seems like a lot of you have put in many questions. So I'm going to leave it up to the facilitators to answer as many questions as they potentially can before I give you additional updates regarding what WorkWell NYC has to offer.
Thanks, Brenda. So maybe I'll try and answer like 2 or 3, and then I'll pass it over to any questions for Stella. One question that I wanted to answer was, which is worst for moods, red meats, carbs like pasta, rice, bread, or synthetic meats? Now, if you look back at some of the previous slides, when we considered the traditional versus the modern diet, we emphasized unprocessed whole foods. So synthetic meats, deli meats, processed meats are going to fall under that category. So I would always recommend eating real foods, whole grains, bread, even something like supporting a small local bakery, which is going to be, more bread than, a loaf of Wonder Bread, for example, that's going to be filled with a lot of preservatives, very processed. Those are the types of foods that you'll see more in the traditional types of diets. Okay. We had a question, are breakfast cereals considered grains and are healthy, or are they considered processed foods? So again, yes, they are processed. If you are having a hard time getting fiber into your diet, that could be a nice segue into, like, trying to get you to be a little bit healthier. There are some nice high fiber options. I don't want that to be your only source of fiber in your diet, right? So, maybe you're getting used to eating Greek yogurt and it's a rough start. So you take Greek yogurt and you put a little bit of some high fiber cereal on top and some berries, right? So it helps get away from something like granola, which can be really high in sugar, and it'll be a little bit higher in fiber. So loaded question. They're a little bit of both, but hopefully that helps to answer. How can we reduce inflammation from the body? Vishali, we did a whole class just on that. Food is medicine. You just missed it. But hopefully, if we convince Brenda, we can do another one. But that was what we had addressed. Okay, let me pass it over to Stella just for time, and then, I'm happy to come back if there are more.
Thank you, Tamar. So I do see a questions asking, do family members have to be on the city insurance plan, or can they have their own coverage? So that's a great question. We help with any insurance plan, so you don't have to be on the city insurance plan for you to get assistance at EAP. And I also see a questions asking about marriage counseling. That's another great question. So here at EAP, we do not offer marriage counseling ourselves per se, but we can connect you with a marriage therapist who is able to provide the relevant assistance. So if you do have concerns related to this, feel free to reach out.
All
Yes,
right,
I think
you're good.
those are the questions for now.
All right, so I'm gonna have Tamar ask us or answer a few more, but before we do that, we want to hear from you. We want to make sure this webinar gave you the information that you felt that you would have prior to participating. So I do want to launch, if I'm able to, this poll and to get your feedback. And I don't know if I can launch it. That's why I'm saying. All right, let's see. There we go. So I just launched a poll. How would you rate the overall quality of this program? And definitely let us know so that way we can continue working to please you. And then maybe tomorrow, one other question, and then I can give updates. Just going to give a few more minutes for people to be able to respond. Thank you. Thank you all who are able to do so. I know some of you may not be able to, so thank you. And we're loving the little visuals that are showing up. All right, thank you ever so much. All right, Tamar, I'm gonna leave it to you and then I will go and give updates.
Thanks, Brenda. There was a question, are there nutritionists available for employees? I don't know if you wanted to answer that. That was for you.
That would be a question that you would have to reach out to your health insurance to see if it's covered under the city medical benefits for individual counseling. We do offer work while we offer programs that may help benefit or manage or prevent, I should say, some of the chronic conditions such as high blood pressure as well as diabetes, but we don't do individual counseling. So hopefully that answered your question.
Awesome, thanks. So there was a question about almonds. Almonds are considered fattening? Is there another nut that can be used as a snack when hangry? I just want to emphasize that yes, they are high in calories, but they are a good source of calories. And I would much rather you be snacking on almonds than potato chips or pretzels or things that maybe have less calories, but the almonds are going to give us a whole big umbrella benefit of other vitamins and minerals as well. And it's a good source of fat. So we don't have to be afraid of almonds. Another question was, is it healthy to eat avocados every day? Yes. And there was another question about how much. So you'll start to see benefits even from eating a quarter of an avocado a day, but feel free to eat half if you want to eat half. If you love avocado and you want to eat a whole avocado throughout the day, awesome, enjoy it. Okay, and then the question was, how can you tell your sugar levels without a finger needle or whatever gadgets are sold on the market? Unfortunately, you can't, Cora. The only way to know is in. So we have to get access to that blood for us to know what our blood sugar levels are. Okay. Do I have time for one more, Brenda? What do you think?
Yeah, if you can do one more and then
Avocado makes me feel so good. I love that. Are protein bars considered unhealthy processed food? So I wrote out an answer, sorry, it was to someone about the difference of processed foods in that you want to look, for single ingredient type foods. When you look at a protein bar, it's got a whole slew of ingredients. Now, is it a good option if you're on the go and you haven't eaten anything today? Maybe. Is it what I want for you to be eating every single day as a source of protein? Definitely not, right? I'd rather your protein come from real food options first and leave that in your bag so that, you don't get a dip in blood sugar, something like that, okay? As a backup. Priya had a question about our mushrooms in the sun to expose them to UV light. So that example has more to do with wild mushrooms, more like chanterelle mushrooms or morel mushrooms, which are grown in the wild that are able to capture some sunlight and transform it into vitamin D. What are some of the examples of fermented foods? These are foods that have live active cultures, bacteria in them. So this would be something like your yogurt, kefir, kombucha, miso, kimchi, sauerkraut. Those are some examples. Okay.
We could go on and on when it comes to
know.
nutrition, right?
I know.
All right. Any more before I give the updates?
There was a question about dried fruit that didn't really have anything to do with what we spoke about today, but could be a great option if you grab a handful of nuts with it. Salmon, oysters, all great options. Will there be more topics on the gut microbiome? That's a Brenda question.
Yeah, well, if we know that you want it, we can definitely work to bring more topics that are of interest back. So if it is an interested topic for the most, we definitely can revisit.
Okay, I'll end with this. Are there fermented foods that are not salty, sour, sweet? That's a cute question. Plain flavor, look for a plain yogurt. Get a plain Greek yogurt. It might be a little tangy, but I wouldn't say necessarily sour. And then you can season it however you'd like. You could make tzatziki out of it. You could add a little bit of honey or a little bit of maple syrup if you need, but that'd be my my best bet. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you both. Next.
Did you want to discuss any upcoming events, Brenda?
I did. I want to let you know, as you know, WorkWell, we have so much programming for you. So this is our upcoming events, May 20th at 7 p.m. Connect, share, and support one another. And it's an opportunity for you to join in with WorkWell for a virtual community forum to navigate these changing times together, for people just to be able to share, to speak, to let each other know what they're going through and how they're able to best deal with what they're going through. And then starting May 22 at 7 p.m. So this is an evening program. So for those of you who are too busy to jump on a webinar or a program during the day, this is a great opportunity to do in the evening. We have a Yoga Nidra deep relaxation session of 4 that starts May 22nd. Yoga Nidra is an ancient practice that promotes relaxation, calms the nervous system, reduces stress, and boosts overall well-being. It is a 4-week session, or there's going to be 4 weeks, and it's a great opportunity for you to participate in something that's new to WorkWell. If you want to hear about these upcoming programs and to keep abreast of what we're offering, I recommend that you join our mailing list. You can use a QR code, or you can visit on on.nyc.gov/mailing list. And you can also keep updated, keep in contact with us. We have a website. You can do LinkedIn, you can do Instagram, you can reach out to us individually. There's so many ways for you to be in contact with WorkWell, to find out what we're offering, and to give us feedback on our programs. So again, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for participating in this webinar, and a special thank you to Stella and Tamar for creating this space and providing so much information that I'm sure each and every one of us can benefit from. I just want to let everybody know that you will receive the recording of today's session as well as the slides. So thank you all. And we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar, presentations, programs. Thank you.